The thing is, yelling and threats are short-term gain for long-term pain. What I teach is short-term pain for long-term gain. You want to invest in tomorrow. You can't undo the past. Just move forward in a more positive way and play with him. The more connected you are, the more power you have because they like you. They want to play with you. They look up to you. You make them feel good. My goal is always that kids feel good about themselves when they're with me. That's my goal. Welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Bratbusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, sweetie, what are we talking about today?
Okay, today's topic is parenting without threats and yelling is possible.
Is it? I'm kidding. Of course it is.
I'm like, well, I hope so.
Without yelling, I have to write it down because I always forget what the theme of the podcast. Without yelling or threats. Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, yelling and threats are short-term gain for long-term pain. What I teach is short-term pain for long-term gain. You want to invest in tomorrow. So I want kids to learn how to discipline themselves. If have self-discipline, if you're yelling or threatening, then you're micromanaging and they're going to rebel. Okay, they can't rebel against a leader because they're self-disciplined.
And before we get into the questions, why do you see parents using these tactics?
Because they work in the moment, but they will backfire. They're temporary. Yelling and threats, it doesn't feel good either. Is that how, have you ever had like a really good boss or like in a job? Does he yell and threaten to get you to do good work? No, it's someone that you look up to, you admire, he gives you good direction. That's the person that you do your best work for. Okay, so yeah, it's temporary. Yelling, spanking, threatening, all those negative things, they could potentially work in the short term, but they will backfire because they're not effective. They're just fear-based. I call them fear-based parenting methods. So you don't know what else to do, so you're kind of scared and you just yell. Once you're in control and you're calm, then you can not yell.
You see it sometimes. Parents, it's just like a gut instinct, like out of habit, they just do it.
Well, often, like I was never yelled at, so to me yelling would feel really weird. It's just a comfort zone thing. If you were raised being yelled at, you see it as normal. To me, I don't see it as normal, although most parents do yell, and I know it's normal for most people. But yeah, I never saw it growing up, so to me it just would feel weird to yell. I would feel kind of embarrassed or something. It just would feel weird. So, but you can train yourself out of it. That's the thing. Even if you're yelling now, most of my clients yell. So we train them out of that. Well, because you got a consequence. And your consequence is always something fun for the kids. So if you yell, then you're not allowed to talk all night or something like that. Especially with older kids, they love that.
Explain how you're referring to that. Would that be with the Bratbusters behavior board?
On the behavior board, your rule is no yelling. You can't put that down for the kids, but your rule would be, let's say, no yelling. And then if you do yell, you have to do something nice for the kids. Like, for example, it might be if they do have chores, it might be you do all their chores the next day. They would love it. It's always something for them. I had one client who said, I know my consequence can be no wine after dinner. And I said, what do the kids care about that? So she goes, well, it would be painful for me. And I said, yeah, but the kids don't care about it. That's not connecting with your kids, is not having a glass of wine after dinner. It has to be something like play hide and seek for 50 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever. So it's always something for them that they would appreciate. If you yell at them, you make it up to them by doing their chore or playing with them, or it's something for them. They benefit from your mistake.
And I think to clarify, because you talk about the consequences, but I think really it's more about doing a good deed, because I think sometimes people hear consequence, but then doing something nice for my kids, why should that be a consequence?
Well, it's a little bit different there because a lot of people say, well, then you mean spending time with my kids is my punishment? Won't they be offended by that? I've been teaching this for about 20 years and not one kid has ever been offended. They're just so thrilled that you're playing hide and seek, or they're thrilled that you're doing their chores. So yeah, don't worry about that. The kids don't seem to pick that up, but their consequence, there's always two for the kids. There's a positive action. If they won't do that, then you resort to the negative deprivation. You take something away. The positive action doesn't have to be horrific. They don't have to scrub the toilets and all the house and the whole house or anything, nothing like that. They can, but it doesn't have to be horrible, but it's just teaching them, you do something bad, you replace it by doing a good deed. So you're not just, if they do something bad, you want to teach them how to be good. So they're doing a good deed. They're helping out around the house. It doesn't have to be something horrible. But if they choose not to do that, the good deed, then you take something away. It's something like 24-hour media blackout, like no screens for a whole day, something like that. But your consequence should be something that benefits the kids. One of my clients said, "Oh no, well, my kid will be the very first one that's ever been offended by that." And I said, "Really? Like what? Why? What did the kid say?" And she said that her son said, "Your consequence is playing Lego with me for 30 minutes." You know what he said? He was offended by it. Do you know why? Because he said, "Well, how come your consequence is something fun?" He thought that that was fun for the parents. They didn't particularly like it. It was something, I don't even think it was Lego. It was something else that was only parents did not want to do it, but they did it. But yeah, isn't that cute? So he was offended because he thought that their consequence was fun for them, and it wasn't.
How did you actually explain that to the kid?
Explain what?
Like, did the parents end up saying, well, actually, it's not fun for me?
I don't remember that we even went into that. I think we just said, "Oh well, it's just she made a mistake." I said, "Don't even bother. Like, don't even bother explaining it." But yeah, I think we just laughed too hard to even begin to. I would have just said, just say, "Oh well, I don't know. That woman said to do it." So and just follow through with it. Always blame me. If things are going awry with the behavior board, just say, "I don't know. She told us how to do that." Blame me.
Okay, should we get into the questions?
Sure.
So we have Daisy from the United States. I have a 3-year-old son. We have had trouble with him going to sleep early, so we threatened leaving him alone in a dark room. And then we did leave him there for like a minute. I think we have caused some fear and possibly trauma. I don't know how to reverse it. Is there a way to get him to sleep on time without threats? Also, when I'm really tired but he wants to play, I lay down and say, Mummy is tired. Sometimes he plays quietly by himself, but recently he threw a tantrum and started crying that he wanted me to play. I tried hugging him, but he got mad and hit me. I work full time and his grandparents take care of him. There are times when I'm really tired, but I'm the only one taking care of him. How can I get some rest?
Okay, I don't even want to comment on the fact that you threatened him to leave him in a dark room and you did. Yeah, there's a little bit of trauma there for sure, but you already know that. Okay, so what I would do is I would use my bedtime battles routine, and you have like a whole ritual that you get him ready for bed. That usually takes an hour. So the bedtime battles is in two parts. The first one is the ritual, the bath, the getting him dressed, and then you say, "Okay, read," and then whatever time's left over in that hour, then you can read to him in bed. Now, I would have a sound machine. I'd have galaxy lights, night lights. Leave the door open, leave the hall light on, and then say, "Okay, good night, love you." Do a monster check, look under his bed, say, "There's no monsters here. They're terrified of mothers." Okay, so I told my kids that. Monsters are terrified of me. If I even look under your bed, they'll never come near it ever again. My kids went, "Wow, okay, thanks, Mom." So yeah, do a monster check and make him feel as safe as possible. And then, like I said, the door's open, he can get up. And then when he gets up, you say, "I said it's bedtime, walk him back to bed." The second time he gets up, you say one word. Say, "Bedtime, walk him back to bed." Go slow. If you move fast, you look angry. Plus, you might have to do it 50 times, so slow it down. And you don't have to tuck him in each time. Just one body part has to touch the mattress. Every time he gets up after those first 2 times, you don't say anything. You don't look at him, talk to him, nothing. You just walk him back to bed. Keep putting him back to bed. He'll get the clue. He'll get the hint.
Okay, we have Lucia from Romania. I have a 3.5-year-old boy. How do I get him to stop hitting when he is frustrated or angry? Whenever we stop him from playing because of a morning or night routine, or when he doesn't listen and we make him do what must be done, he gets very angry, struggles with change, and hits with his fist. I try to catch his hand and not react, but it doesn't seem to work. If I threaten to take away his toys or limit cartoons for hitting, he gets even angrier. I feel like things are getting out of proportion and we don't know where to even handle the situation.
Okay. Uh, Check out the behavior board. It's completely free on my website. And his rule on that behavior board, the behavior board starts at the age of 3, is no hitting. And then every time he hits, you say, "Okay, let's go to the board." And then you always look at the board like you've never seen it before. Slow everything down. Whenever you're disciplining, you talk low and talk slow. So you say, "Now let me see now. The board, your rule is no hitting." So you hit. So your consequence is, "I'm going to get you to clean clean the bathroom sink out." Okay. And I'll give you 15 minutes to do it. If he screams and doesn't want to do it, I don't care. You don't say another thing about it. It should be a chore that he already knows how to do, that you've already showed him how to do it. So the timer's going, and then the timer goes and he hasn't even done it yet. Okay. So you say, "Oh, timer went. Let's go back to the board." I don't even care if he's there. You're talking to yourself. So you go to the board and you say, "Okay, now let me see. Your rule was no hitting and you hit. Your consequence was to clean the bathroom sink and you chose not to do that. So now media blackout starts now for 24 hours. So it could go something like that. And then you go and find him and you say, "Okay, no screens for a whole day." Do not over-explain yourself now because he chose not to listen. He chose to run away. He can learn as you go. Okay? That's how you follow through. You stay very, very calm. So no hitting is just treated like any other rule. You just have a consequence and you're very, very calm. Like I said, you talk low and you walk slow, and you're just very, very calm when you're reading out the consequences. He'll eventually learn.
Okay, we have Lucy from Australia. I lost my patience once with my 2.5-year-old toddler whilst putting him to bed. I also have a 5-month-old baby that I was caring for. I got overwhelmed parenting solo. I tapped my toddler's bum enough to frighten him, but not hard enough to cause pain. He got real surprised and upset and said, "You hurt me." I regretted and apologized, hoping to own my mistake and course correct. We made good, but he wasn't pleased. A month or two later, whilst putting him to bed, I got a bit annoyed, but stayed calm thanks to your podcast. I threatened to take his toy away, take away the fun, and in defense, he said, "Don't hurt me." I am heartbroken. How can I mend our relationship? We spend a lot of time together as a family. He loves playing with his father, who's the leader of the house, but works away weekly. And I'm his constant, but I feel ashamed and felt like I have let him down.
Yeah, you're going to have to let that go because you can't undo the past. Just move forward in a more positive way and play with him. I'm a little bit confused though. Like, why are you threatening? What is he doing? I kind of got lost there. Why is she threatening? I'll take away a toy. Why? Because he's not getting into bed?
It says whilst putting him to bed.
Putting him to bed. What's he doing? Is he
It doesn't
okay?
specifically
I'm a little
say.
bit confused by that. There's no point in threatening. You let them do whatever they're going to do, and then you come in with a consequence afterwards. So I don't quite understand that one. But anyway, and you never discipline at night. The next day you say, now he's 2.5. You don't talk like that with a 2.5-year-old. If he's hitting and all that, you just say no and then you just put him to bed, basically. But yeah, you just have to move forward. We can't have consequences the next day for a 2.5-year-old. That would be 3 and above. So yeah, just put him to bed. He's just all upset. He's all wound up. Say, "Don't hurt me." Say, "I won't." And then just say, "Good night, love you," calmly, and walk away. Can't make up for that. He'll eventually forget. And move forward and just play with him. Play with him. That's how you make it up.
Yeah, you talk about that being such a big part of your calm leadership approach is connecting with your kids in their world.
That's what I was so good at. That's why it worked so well when I was working with kids. I know how to connect with kids. I know how to play with them. It's all in their world. The more connected you are, the more power you have because they like you. They want to play with you. They look up to you. You make them feel good. My goal is always that kids feel good about themselves when they're with me. That's my goal. If you want to know more about this, I have a sort of a synopsis. It's called the pool story. It explains all this. I don't let anything go. I deal with bad behavior, but then all my focus goes into the good kid. My goal is always that they like themselves when they're with me. When you bring that out in someone, if you're even as an adult, if you're around someone that makes you feel good about yourself, how do you treat that person? You want to be around them and you kind of want to please them. You certainly are nice to them, aren't you? If someone makes you feel good, you do good. And that's what we're after here. We want to make kids feel good. We don't want to shame them or blame them or bullying, talking about all their bad behavior. That's a disaster. You deal with bad behavior, then you move on.
Okay, the next question is Hannah from the United States. My son just turned 3 in January, and I'm afraid we're on the wrong side of the fork in the road. I have to admit that I have a yelling problem. He has a 21-month-old sister who he has a love-hate relationship with. They are inseparable but can't seem to do anything peacefully together. Play with toys? Nope. Eat at the same table? Nope. Read books from the same bookshelf? Nope. My son is territorial and my daughter just snatches things all day and it's a constant fight. I'm a stay-at-home mom and no family around or even friends to meet up with regularly. So the screaming, crying, and fighting all day absolutely depletes me. Through therapy, I've realized that I yell because of my low self-esteem, and like you've said time and time again, yelling has worked as a temporary fix for undesirable behavior, but it's backfiring. My son yells at his sister, yells no at me all day long, and it's just a never-ending cycle between all of us. How in the world do I enjoy my children? Do I just have to accept that I'm going to be a referee between these two forever? I know I'm not a leader yet because I yell, help.
Okay, yikes. There's so many different things I could say to that. Not yikes in that the problem's so big. It's yikes. I got a lot of answers for that one. Where do I start? Okay. Now you already sort of answered the hitting and they're fighting. She's the instigator. She grabs stuff off him. You can say to him, if you don't want her to grab something, but you have to go after her, okay, you use consistent corrective action with her, the younger one. So you say to him, if you really have something precious that you don't want her to play with that's just yours, you have to go in your room or have an allocated room where he has to go all by himself and she can't get to it. So he can be protective of some things. Because it's very frustrating if you're older and you got a little one coming along grabbing stuff and then you hit and you retaliate and then you get in trouble. You see, it's a feeling of injustices. So I'm suggesting maybe that's part of what's going on with him. He doesn't feel like you're controlling her. There's all these injustices against him. So he's miserable. Also, play harder with them and keep yourself between the two of them. It's just crazy stuff. It doesn't have to be anything that interesting. Go out with them when you be between them as much as possible. And you're going down the slide. You take turns going down the slide together with each of them or separately or whatever. So you got to be more, play harder with them. The more you play, the better they are. And watch her. Make sure she doesn't antagonize him. Because then he gets in trouble and he feels injustices and then he's all upset and he's miserable. That's usually what happens, by the way. It's usually the retaliator who gets in trouble. And I always say we're going after the instigator, not the retaliator.
In this case as well, just mentioning that not having like the family or support system, would you recommend like mom groups or
Play groups, play groups, play groups. Go anywhere you can. Yeah. We can go, libraries often have story times. There'll be lots of other mums there. It's not so much where you're going with your kid, it's who you're going to connect with when you go there. Think about it. If you go to a story time at the library for toddlers, who are you going to meet there? Who are you going to see there? A bunch of young 18-year-old guys? No, you're going to see a bunch of mums there with their kids. A lot of them might be on their own too, right? No family around. So actually, yeah, I run into that. I go places with my granddaughter, and I'm the old lady there, obviously. But yeah, I see a whole bunch of them connect up, and then next thing you know, they're having coffee together with their kids. Get out, get your kids around other kids. Play hard with your kids at the park. You don't just sit and watch them play, you play with them. So you're kind of the referee, you're between them so you can prevent any problems. But the more fun they're having, the less likely they are to fight. She's probably just antagonizing him because she wants his attention. Maybe they both need you playing with them more. Get some more levity, more joy into the household.
yeah, and I would just guess with those mom groups as well, it's like a forced, not a forced interest, but it gives you something to talk about too.
You can all talk about kids. I remember once years ago. I think it was just my son. He's 5 years older than Amy, and so it was just him and I think he was about one or really little. And it was an older not an older neighbor, but she had older kids, and she lived right next door. And we were talking over the fence, and she said, "Oh, you don't look so good." And I said, "No, we were both, me and the baby, my son, were up all night. We were both sick with a cold or whatever, or miserable." And she goes, and she wasn't one to give advice. She was a really sweet lady. And she goes, "The best advice I can give you is just get dressed with spit up all over you, snot in your, who cares, and get out." So I did. I did get a semi-presentable, and we went out, and darned if I didn't meet another mother with another little boy, snot running down his face. They'd all been sick and up all night. We had a great time. So if you think that you're the only one going through this, you're wrong. The more you get out there and socialize with other moms, you're going to see you're in the same boat as a whole bunch of them.
Okay, the next question is Abby from England. 3.5-year-old boy acting out to get attention. I'm, of course, giving lots of positive attention and play whenever I can, but some days he clearly craves more and is seeking the negative attention of winding me up towards shouting. I'm trying to ignore lots of the bad behavior so that he doesn't get any gratification from it and gives up, but sometimes it feels like it needs a punishment. So, for example, this morning he threw a bucket of Duplo at me. This feels like something I shouldn't ignore, but don't want to give it the reward of negative attention. My main question is, how do I use the behavior board when it's not one specific behavior? It's lots of random acting out, so I don't know what I could even write on the board. There seems like too many things I could write on there.
Well, I just pick one battle. I'd put down no hurting other people. When he throws things at people, or you could even say no throwing things, but I would put no hurting other people. And you can even put or throwing things. So in other words, no violence, but he's 3 years old. You need to be more specific. So it's kind of the same thing. No violence. So no throwing things or no hurting other people. And that's it. And then there's a consequence if he does. By the way, you said that he keeps pushing you until you get all riled up. That's what he's after. He's after your reaction. It's a control thing. So yeah, if you get upset, he just won. And he knows it. That's why the board's there. The board's there to teach you what else to do. Instead of getting upset, walk over to the board through gritted teeth and read out the consequence to him and follow through.
Okay, we have one final question. So, Charlotte from the United Kingdom. My son is 4, will be 5 in June. What is the time frame around consequences for parents, please? So, for example, if I've messed up and yelled at my son, he'll say, "You shouted, you have to play hide and seek with me. Do I have to do it right away?" I ask because it's not possible if we're leaving the house and I got mad at him about not putting his shoes on, or for example, if it's bedtime and it's the 10th time he got out of bed, following bedtime battles advice. I also ask because if I messed up and shouted, I'd be mad and would need to calm down first, too, before I could play hide and seek straight away, even if it was a convenient time. Some clarification and guidance on this would be hugely helpful.
Just say, okay, I owe you a hide and seek, and we'll do it at such and such time. It doesn't have to be right now. If you're out, you can't play hide and seek at the mall. Well, I guess you could, but I wouldn't do it. But you see what I'm saying? Just say, and set the time. Say, okay, we're going to play hide and seek, and we'll do it after dinner.
Like an IOU.
Yeah, but now I would normally say as soon as we can, but you already said that you won't want to play if you're really mad. So that's why you say give it a few hours or whatever. Yep,
Which I think
absolutely.
is understandable, giving yourself time to calm down.
Absolutely. Now, I always say you can't show any anger, disappointment, or frustration at your kids. I've never said you can't feel it. You just can't show it. So yeah, if you really can't get the poker face going, just prolong that time before you play.
Okay, that was it for the questions.
Oh, that was easy. Okay, no yelling or no threats. You do it in the short term. Yelling, spanking, and threatening work in the short term, but they will backfire down the road. They're not what you want to stick with. They're not even what you want to start with. So I always say, if you want to start learning how to do all this, I teach leadership, calm leadership parenting. You check out my free behavior board. It's on my website. It actually has a section in there for toddlers also, because we don't use a behavior board with under 3. So check that out. If you want the next level, you can get the courses and then coaching, and you can listen to the podcast, which is where you are right now. Coaching's very different. It's very personal, of course. But anyway, anyone can learn how to do this. And the way that you get better at it is when you start seeing results, it gets easier. But initially, it's going against the grain, because if someone makes you upset, a lot of people just react with yelling or threatening or all that negative stuff. It's very normal to do that. Okay. A lot of people do that. So don't worry about it. Just move forward. Also, I'm not a therapist. I don't focus on the past and I don't focus on the problems. I focus on the positivity and moving forward. I focus on the fun with kids. Where you put your energy, where you put your focus is what grows. So I always try and be more positive and moving forward. Don't worry about what you did in the past. We all make mistakes. Let it go and move forward. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk again next time. Happy parenting.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.